It looks like a scene on a movie set, but these actors are real first responders, rescuing would-be victims during a scenario of a mock plane crash at the St. George Regional Airport.
If a commercial aircraft had an accident and we had 65 people on board, this is what it's supposed to simulate.
And while this Piper jet isn't the size of a real commercial jet plane, it was still good practice for those who needed to extricate and triage patients.
We did, in this incident, have an actual fuselage that we were able to extricate patients out of, which is new. Usually we use a mass transit bus, and our main goal as a fire department is getting those patients out of the hot zone to a triage area to where EMS can triage them and get them in the right vessels to be transported to the hospital.
Espelin said those who were deceased were left to lay on the ground and those who could be saved were triaged by survivability.
And then they bring them to a treatment area that's away from the scene so that you're not in the way of the scene and in danger, but you're not so far away that it's too far.
So we had about 35 people represented. We had some that were kind of blow up people, and then we had about 11 live actors. And the live actors were varying stages of injury. And some were grievously wounded, some were walking wounded, and so we triaged them in separate spots.
First responders included firefighters from several area agencies as well as ambulance services and paramedics, both on the ground and in the air.
And then we had Life Flight come in and extricate them and pull them out. They flew a little bit of a pattern and landed.
Mandated by the Federal Aviation Administration every 3 years, this training is good practice to know how to respond in the case of a real emergency.
It's always good to have the EMS guys do the assessments of what patients are and what the conditions are. It's hard with the little artificialities that go on, but overall they did really well.
There's always surprises. Communication is usually one of the issues we have. In this incident, we actually had really good communication, so that was a very good thing for us. The main thing is accountability. With so many people on scene, trying to track how many patients have come out of the hot zone and where those patients are located, whether it's in a helicopter for transport or in a ground transport scenario. That's the most challenging part. And there was some patients that we worked to account for, and we're able to account for all 50 patients on the airplane. But to me, that's always going to be the most challenging part, just because even in training, as much as you prepare, there's some sort of chaos as far as bringing this many people together and coordinating everyone's effort. But I feel it went really well, and like every time, we learn a lot, and we take notes, and we work to improve each time.
And while the triage is important, the most important thing when responding to an emergency like this is safety of the first responders.
There's going to be chaos at the crash scene, right? If something like this ever really happened, it's going to be bad. So we want our response to be as efficient as possible to be able to save as many lives. So it's really safety oriented.
And even though it's mandated, this drill was actually paid for by the agencies who responded.
We had Mesquite Air come in, Mercy Air come from Mesquite. We had Classic come in from Page, Arizona. And then we had Life Flight here in St. George. That's probably the most expensive group, but then you also have the fire department from the city, you have the police department, you have, we use Suntran buses, all those kind of things. They all kind of participate and pay for this because most of the time their departments have to do some kind of emergency exercise anyway. So when we put it on and then involve everybody, they get to participate and they don't have to plan it.
A hot wash or review of their response and findings allows the responders to learn from their training and improve on what they might need to do next time.
When you set up a plan for something, it almost never goes according to plan. Like there's always going to be something that's different. You know, somebody may park in the spot they weren't supposed to, or whatnot. So I think that's the whole point of the post briefing, is to go over those sorts of things and see what you can correct for the future.
From the St. George Regional Airport, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.